Hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, gotcha.
Awesome. Well, that worked this time. Well done.
Okay,
So if
perfect.
you all can hear us and you can see us, that means we're back. We're Aaron and Nathan, and it's been a minute. We've had a little bit of a hiatus. Um, should we go into that?
Yeah, I guess we could
Why we?
spend 30 seconds on the hiatus.
Okay, quickly. We'll briefly update. I was gone for about 5 weeks to Portugal. It was fantastic, but we couldn't really record during that time, and that's my excuse.
I was in Utah.
And
I
that's
got no
it.
excuse. I have
That's it.
nothing.
Okay.
No, yeah,
Okay, well,
sorry.
we expected to hear a lot from Nate during that time, and he sort of, we'll just say he let us down
I published my
while I was on
wiki, and
vacation.
you can go look at that.
Okay, so, yeah, so today we're talking about, I mean, there's lots to talk about, and I know we've covered like stuff in the past, like that's not super like heavy, and today's going to be a little bit of a heavier episode, I think, probably just because I think I think that's something relevant. I feel really passionate about it, and it's something that's bothering me. And sometimes I like to vent about what's bothering me, and I think sometimes those passionate vents, um, yeah, need to be like let out probably a little bit. So, so yeah, today we're talking about the weather, and not in a good way. I know we could talk about mass killings, we could talk about wars, we could talk about like all kinds of stuff that's going on right now that's probably super intriguing for everybody. But the weather right now has been sort of odd. California, we've had like 90 degrees, 89, 90s here right now, which is really weird because I expected hundreds, 110s and stuff. We're having flash floods places, we're having fires, which is I think the new norm now. And I think we need to talk about like what we're doing as a country and how effective we are at with these disasters, right? Because it's not like they're slowing up. I feel like they're becoming more and more prevalent, right? At least somebody who lives, I mean, at least somebody who lives here in Northern California, next to Paradise, the entire town that burned down, that was 2018, and it's been what 7 years, and we've still had firefighters. One just hit LA. So what's the at what point do we start like getting ahead of this and doing preventative things, to prevent this stuff? Nate, I think is where I'm getting frustrated with, right? I mean, people don't have to die, right?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, as you intro this and you start talking, this is something that happens with a lot of different things in the realm of science, which is I just go, I don't know, like I don't know the answer to any of this. I'm definitely not the smartest guy, especially when we start talking about um, weather and fire and everything else. But I can observe
Well, I mean, Nate,
and
are you an expert? Let's just throw this out there. Are you an expert?
in
And
something, yes,
I mean, let's just so we're talking about outside of our wheelhouse right here.
yeah,
Like, I'm
yeah,
not a climate expert. I'm not a scientist. Was never
fair,
very good at physics or chemistry in high
yeah,
school, even when I was
yeah,
forced to take it. Right. So I'm
yeah,
not. I'm not one of those like dudes that's going to come off and be like, "Hey, man, I'm really good at science. Listen to me."
yeah.
This is me as a normal, average, reasonable person, like
Okay,
weighing
so
it. Right.
let me alter my response a little bit then. I think if I were to rephrase it, it would be to say I'm not an expert, but I think that there is consensus among experts that I rely on and that I listen to. And that consensus is that it's not magic that these fires are just happening. These are not just happening because, we're not raking the forests or whatever.
Well, yeah. I mean, so there's the fires, right, and there's floods too. But I mean, like, if we're talking about like Paradise, there was some, even if there are natural disasters, which I think there always will be, right? We
Sure.
live on a Earth that's constantly changing and moving with moving parts, right? Like tectonic plates and stuff. I do remember that from like high school science.
Yeah.
I do know those move, earthquakes, volcanoes. I mean, those things are still happening all around us, right? So, I mean, as a civilization, we've got to know that the earth is going to do some things that are going to severely mess us up and cause loss of life, right? So,
Yep.
as humans that have lived on the earth for a long time now, and who've had science and critical thinking and reasoning skills and problem solving skills for a long time, I don't feel like we've gotten much better at avoiding some of these what I feel like are preventable deaths.
I think I think that in some ways we have, in that now we have ways to predict earthquakes in some ways. So like we have ways of we have weather reports that tell us when tsunamis are going to hit, whatever, so we can do some preventative damage. But to your point, I don't know that we're actually lessening the amount of life lost, and maybe that's because populations are bigger now. I don't know, but I think the technology has changed. I don't know that we've done enough. I don't know that maybe we haven't utilized the technology properly. Maybe we don't trust the technology. I don't know.
I don't know, dude. I think though that is a really big deal, right? The technology aspect. In terms of like technology for like let's say the Paradise Fire,
Sure.
they're relying on like calling people and letting people know that hey, you need to get out of here and cell phones. But when cell phone towers are being burned up,
Yep.
that limits it, right? And people
Sure.
in Paradise had very little time to get out, and when they were able to get out and get in their cars, there was one way out of town,
Yeah.
and that is it.
Yeah.
So this is the thing, right? I'm thinking if you live in a foresty area and there's one way in and one way out, who could what could possibly go wrong?
Well,
This is
okay.
the stuff I'm thinking about, right?
I
Like I'm
understand.
thinking like I know hindsight's 2020, right?
Yeah.
But but why weren't we thinking about stuff like that? Like, okay, if there is a fire, let's make sure people can escape.
I'm okay. So I grew up in Chico, grew up right directly below Paradise, and I definitely followed this fire very intensely because my parents were in the canyon at
Right.
the time. I do remember. You'll have to correct me. I know you followed this closer than I did, and this would be the aftermath. But weren't there checks on electronic lines or on electric lines that were not maintained or properly
Yeah, that
followed?
yes, that came into the PG the lawsuit against PG&E
PG&E, right?
that they were some of them were neglected and were not like maintained and
So
inevitably they were the reason for the fire. Yeah.
sure, but so I think both things can be right because I think you have, like you said, a one way in, one way out situation that will never change in that canyon. There, it
No,
was.
there's no I mean
That's
by right, the geography of it is
yeah,
that it's going to be really difficult. I feel
yeah.
that.
But I mean, there's also the right. We can't predict the fire, but we can mitigate potential disaster by making sure that we're doing those. I don't know, like annual checks or whatever it is that they do on equipment to make sure that
Yeah,
things are
I mean,
maintained properly or
for
whatever.
sure. Or we could not have wires containing fire, electricity, right?
Yeah,
Running through flammable surface areas.
sure,
How about put them underground?
totally,
Dude,
totally.
what? I mean,
Yeah,
how about that?
even
That
here in
technology's
Provo.
been, dude, that technology's been here for 100 years,
So
but PG&E was
moving
giving money
from
to their freaking shareholders
yep,
instead of like making improvements to make
right.
sure stuff safe, right?
Right, we're on the same page. So
Yeah.
in the last house that we've been in this house now for 4 years. The house that we had prior to this, we had electric lines that ran right over our yard, like right over, right? It was an older part of town. If a fire had started, I mean, it's not like, Chico Paradise where we have got dry grass everywhere. They would have put the fire out fairly quickly and it would have been mitigated to a block or 2 blocks or whatever. The new house that we moved into, all the lines are underground. So they knew, that things needed to change and be updated or whatever. And so we've clearly
Right.
learned, something. So to your point, they upgrade internet in the canyon, in
Right.
Butte Creek Canyon. They know that they need to change some infrastructure up there. So how about electricity?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's just right. I mean, so that in itself, like put wires underground. I mean, clearly putting flammable electrical stuff, even if it's not a fire, even if it's in a storm and a tree hits the line, it falls down, it comes down, there's a live wire down. I mean, just come
Yeah.
on, right? These
Yeah.
things, transformers blowing up for certain things, hitting poles. If you're driving cars, hitting power poles and things, those fall down. So we literally erected something very dangerous, like over our city, like our roads and stuff.
So about 40 years ago, when I lived up in the canyon with my parents, there was a terrible thunderstorm. Water saturated the earth to the point that two large digger pine trees across the street fell.
Digger pine's the worst, by the way.
Crazy,
You'll see
huge.
those in lawsuits, dude,
Yeah.
everywhere. Digger
They're
pines fall down and kill people all the time.
yeah, they're I mean the root system, again, I don't know enough about this, but what I do know is that the trees did fall. They crossed over Honey Run Road and crashed down the electric lines. Again, because they were standing right up underneath them. Electricity went out for probably half the canyon, I don't know, but they've been dealing with this stuff for forever. Like this keeps happening. This is
Yeah.
not a new thing.
No, I know. And they cite expense and stuff, but I mean,
Sure.
when you're paying out wrongful death and like
Yeah.
to all these trauma damages and stuff to all these survivors. I mean, at what point it's got to be a certain point where you're like, okay, well, maybe it's not even maybe it's cheaper to like put the things underground so we don't get sued and kill people, or how
Yep.
about maybe it's just sort of the right thing to do.
Yep.
Maybe, yeah, maybe it costs more and we could shell out, lawsuits for the rest of eternity because we make enough money to do that. But how
Yep.
about just putting them underground because maybe even killing one person is too much? I
Sure.
mean, I don't know. But so this is my like thing, right? So after that, when you get into nuts and bolts of like what went wrong in Paradise,
Yeah.
and this kind of like response usually accompanies mass shootings, right? Mass
Hmm.
shooting, all of a sudden people are have died, people have been killed, families are mourning, much like families in Paradise are mourning, or families in Texas are still mourning for the flash floods that went through there, right? We could talk about that in a second, but politicians go to like their go-to phrase or go-to strategy is literally let's respect the
Yeah.
let's respect the grief and the sorrow and the trauma that these people are going through by not talking about the problem of what happened, of not
Right.
talking about the failure on our part, or
Right.
on who we're supposed to be creating policy and stuff to make you guys safer and things more efficient and things better and better life. Let's not talk about that because we need to honor the deaths of those who have died because of our failure.
But what's funny about that is that the victims' families aren't saying that. Like
No,
the
and that's
victims' families aren't saying, "Oh, we should have a little period of time while we can all grieve." Instead, they're saying, "What the heck happened? Why did this happen?" Like they want in on it. Then shouldn't that be fair game at that point to say, "Yeah, we're going to talk about this"?
no, I think that they gaslight them too. I mean, I think it's an all-around smokescreen gaslight,
Yeah.
and I think it's super effective. And I think the reason it's effective is we have so many things happening in the US that if they can just wait a week and push this off a week of not talking about their own failures, they can wait for some other city to have some sort of failure, and that's now in the news. And now the people that were suffering in their city now have absolutely zero coverage,
Right.
and zero time in front of the cameras to
Yeah.
like plead their case of what went wrong, because now you've got another flipping tragedy.
Yeah.
Like we have so many tragedies that this works. Wait till the next one, and everybody will forget all about ours.
Yep.
And so I don't know that kind of thing. I don't know. It drives me crazy. I think that what they should do is they should be honest. They should be transparent, and they should step up and start problem solving immediately. As soon as the thing went down and as soon as stuff was going wrong, they need to come in there and go, okay, where were the failures in this system? How can we do better for next time? I
Yeah.
mean, I'm talking about like number one, identify what went wrong, take accountability, right? No finger pointing, no saying,
Right.
oh, well, this was somebody 30 years ago that made this mistake, and oh, this was somebody 10 years ago or a year ago. I don't care who it was, dude. You're in office, it's on you. You're the
Yeah.
one that's dealing with this, right? Take
So maybe.
accountability,
Yep.
propose a solution, enact the solution, right? And then when you're putting the solution into, and like you're changing stuff, right? And you're putting the solution into play, make some sort of metrics or some sort of rubric where you can measure if it worked better or not.
Yeah.
But we can't keep doing the same thing though, dude, that we've always done and expect there to be no, to be less deaths, right? Like the
Yeah.
flooding,
I
the
think
flooding
what
in Texas,
happens,
it was awful.
yeah, I think what happens is let's use the Paradise Fires, Butte Creek Canyon fires as an example. So the fire started up in what, Concow or something crazy. It was like way, way up in the hills, and then it just eventually eked its way down to Paradise and Butte Creek Canyon. But I remember like we were all following those fires for I think at least 24 hours before we realized, oh my gosh, like this is imminent danger. And then from there, it just happened so fast because they
Yeah,
said it
no, it
was
went
like
really fast. Right.
crazy fast, right? They said it was taking down like a football field every 7 seconds or something
Yeah,
insane.
yeah, it was moving quick.
So there is a period of time from, hey, there's a fire up in the Concow area to the point where it was like, we're losing people. So the news starts obviously when they're like, hey, there's smoke. Like literally there's smoke, right? And then the news ends, let's say years later, when they say, here's how the lawsuits all shook out, and here's where the end of the story is. So the question is, at what point do we decide, we take action? At what point do we decide we take blame? At what point do we decide we're gathering information? And I think that if I were to respond to you, I'd say there has to be a period of time where we gather information in an unbiased manner. So
Wait, hold on a second. When you say unbiased manner,
yeah.
like what are you talking about? Like, are you
Um,
talking about like, I mean,
so
if
without assigning blame, right? So we're just like, there's a fire, right? So we're not assigning blame right now. We're like, there's a
oh,
fire. It's covering
right,
this many
okay,
acres. It's in this area, whatever. And then as they move along, they're like, here's how we think the fire started. We're not talking about, well, this is the person that last checked on the systems, whatever. Instead, they're like, this line was, broken. It looked like it was old and it broke or whatever. And then let the details go from there instead of, there's a fire. We think it's this thing. We think these are the people that are responsible because the last time we think that it was checked was this time, whatever, whatever. I think we go so quickly to whose fault it is, right? Instead of saying, here's what's going on and here's what we are preliminarily identifying as the issue.
right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think what you're saying, like in a like just to boil it down to like a bullet point is the make the problem is the problem, like the people aren't the problem. Like let's address the problem,
Yep.
but not like not make people or personalities the problem. Let's make
Right.
the problem and just look at that like without looking at people involved.
Right.
Just look at the
Right.
problem itself, like what happened.
So, but there has to be a flip over, right? There has to be a point where this flips and we start saying, okay, well, instead of a politician saying, hey, this is a time where we're letting people mourn or whatever. Like, I get that, whatever. But at what point do we say, okay, it's time for politicians and leaders to, start taking responsibility because there is going to be another event that will take the highlights and take the cameras away from this one. I'm
Yeah,
asking the
it gives
question
it
because I
gives
don't
them
know.
it literally gives them cover. Like they
Yes.
don't have to do anything. It's like, okay, cool. I'm
Yeah.
so glad. It's almost like a relief. Like, oh my gosh, thank goodness this
This
tragedy
other
over there
thing.
happened
Yeah.
because now we don't have to deal with this anymore.
Yep.
I mean to push back just a little bit on on like the politicians and the process and stuff.
Yeah.
I think they can if if they're worthy to be in their elected office, I think they can walk and chew gum at the same time.
Okay.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
That's
they can
fair.
be going, everybody, I feel bad for you guys and stuff. My heart is, you know, my heart's broken for the losses you guys have suffered.
Yeah.
And but also I'm working really hard on this to make sure that this doesn't happen to your families again
Mm.
and it doesn't happen to anybody else around here again.
Yep.
And I don't hear that.
Yeah. No,
Like
that's fair. I
you
think
know,
you can do that concurrently.
you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I don't hear
Yeah.
that. I don't hear we're working on the problem. It's literally they put a bunch of stuffed, freaking boring ass robot people up there that are all like these polished, PR people or spokespeople. I'm gonna turn that over to the district dude over here who's gonna talk about, the metrics of how much water came in. Dude, nobody cares about this. Nobody cares, bro, about how much water came in, or nobody cares about any of you what you guys are saying. What they care about is what are you doing to make sure that this doesn't happen again? And that's what we don't hear. We don't hear what they're doing to make sure this will never happen again. Like in the flash floods in Texas, dude, it rose 12, it rose like 25 feet in 2 hours, right? Okay, we've got the technology today to send people for vacation, for tours into space. We've got the technology to do something like this. You're in Utah, I'm here. We've got GPS stuff that we can control our fridge and our lights in our house and stuff from a different country. However, we can't monitor a river and know that, oh, at this rate of this water increase from this hour, this was freaking 12 and a half feet. If this continues in the next hour, you guys are all drowned. Where are any monitoring systems or anything like that to let people know, hey, you've got an hour to get out of here? Don't you think that would be a super smart thing to do, that we just might have the technology to, I don't know, to do that?
So I think we do though, right? So this is this. So follow me on this. This is not pushback. This is. Let me just respond. So think about Oroville and Oroville Dam and how it was or was not maintained. Remember this with this. This is your territory. You're gonna have
There's
to
a
tell me.
spillway.
But
The
the
spillway was
spillway.
broke. Yeah,
There
spillway
was a
was
spillway that
cracked.
was, yeah, and were they monitoring that in any degree? I thought they were monitoring, but there was inaction,
No, I
if
think
I
there was an
recall.
action. I think it was the
Yeah.
same. Yeah.
Yeah. So the monitoring's in place, terrific. But what are we doing with the data, right? Because if you already know that the spillway has to be maintained, has to be rebuilt, whatever, because now they're doing it after the event, right?
Right.
They did it after the disaster. So maybe the reason this is so complex is because all of this does belong, you know, threaded, throughout the entire conversation. There has to be monitoring, there has to be action, there has to be, um, like you're saying, walking and chewing gum at the same time. So if there's a spokesperson, they have to say, here's what we're doing to prevent the next one. In the meantime, here's how we're investigating, and here's how we're, taking care of the damage that is imminent right now, or something like that.
Yeah. So I mean, I pulled the Texas article about the
Yeah.
flash floods there from
Yeah.
an op-ed on July 11th from the Wall Street Journal, and they the op-ed says, um, oh, this wasn't a failure of science, as with the 2023 fires in Lahaina, Hawaii, where 102 people died and there was no warning. This was failure of local leaders to summon the political will to prepare.
Mm.
Preventing future disasters like this one requires not prophecy, but preparation.
Hmm.
They also went on to say, like, a few local leaders have said they were cautious about issuing evacuation warnings because too many false alarms make the alerts less effective over time.
Right.
Um, yeah, I mean, they said that the meteorologists had identified the hazard early enough. In the days prior, the remnants of Tropical Storm Barry unleashed up to 20 inches of rain across the hill country. The National Weather Service issued flood watches on July 3rd. They kept giving these warnings and stuff to these local leaders, and then it says local leaders never built siren systems and
Mm.
issued alerts too late. So why
Mm.
not build siren systems? Why? Like, this is my question to them. What did they use money for that they thought was better than protecting people from floods?
Yeah.
Nate, I
Yeah.
mean, this is the stuff I can't get over. Like this, these are preventable deaths. This is why this bothers me, because it's not like a lightning bolt came down and struck somebody and killed somebody. These are failures of like civic leadership to like keep their constituency like safe. Like literally. So I
So it
don't
is
know.
political.
I well, I don't feel like it's political. I feel like whoever the leaders are. I mean, I know in Texas most are Republicans down there, but to me, Democrats are up here in Northern California, and we
Yeah.
let freaking paradise happen.
Yeah.
So I mean, and I'm not blaming party, because I think both parties do this. I'm blaming people. I'm
Yeah, I
blaming
mean,
I'm,
it's
I'm
it's not
blaming
a party thing; it's a
no,
power thing, right? So it's like,
yeah,
as whether I'm a Democrat or a Republican, I want to stay in office, right?
yeah, no. It's self-preservation at the expense of others.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, so elect what I mean, I don't know. What do you think? Like, what do you think an elected official's job is? What
Well,
is their job?
so if I am, I actually don't know how to answer that question. Well, if we talk about like Paradise or Texas or whatever, so it seems like it almost always comes down to the governor, right? Like when we have disasters in California, disasters in Texas, disasters wherever. It's in fact this morning I think there was an earthquake in New Jersey, which is really weird, by the way.
No, right. I saw that.
And I wonder if already we have a response from the governor there. I haven't looked,
Well,
but
I mean, even if
yeah,
it's the governor, Nate, I mean, the
yeah,
county supervisors have a
yep,
lot of like pull over what happens in the county and where money gets spent, right?
sure.
Like they could spend it on the spillway. They can the county down in Texas, where the county where this happened, they could have spent money on alert systems for their constituents down there too. I've learned reading about this that they took money that was actually earmarked from the federal government to prepare for systems like this, and they used it in another way. So they had some resources to do this with, and they decided it was better spent on some of their law enforcement needs instead of protecting some of these people. These
And
hundred
this
and
and that budget
over
was
100.
earmarked for flooding,
It was
that
earmarked for
type of
environmental
prevention.
like flooding and stuff like that, and they
Yeah.
decided they were going to use it for something else. So I mean, whether or not that I don't even care about. I'm bothered that they had funds to do it.
Yeah.
They knew that it's called Flash Flood Alley, I think, or something like that. It's I mean it's I don't know. I feel like they did a huge disservice to their constituents, and I think every elected official, the reason they pull this stunt where they say we can't talk about this is because
Mind time.
they don't want to implicate themselves. They're taking the
Yeah.
fifth. They're
Yeah.
literally standing in front of a bunch of people and saying, I'm taking the fifth on this one. I don't want to say anything that can incriminate myself.
Right.
And that's what and then they're skating away, waiting for another tragedy. And then they're brushing everything under the rug, all the while their constituents are dying. And then nothing happens to fix it. That's
I,
the
I I
gosh,
think
that's
there is a way to respond though, right? So like let's say that you don't want to implicate yourself or put yourself into a legal situation. I'm gonna at this point defer to you because I have no idea where I'm walking into. But it seems like if you're on camera and you're being asked questions about this disaster, I think the least the I think a bare minimum you could say I'm taking responsibility from this moment forward to assess what's going on, fix it, and see, and make sure it doesn't happen again. You
yeah, no,
know,
I think that's 100% accurate. I don't think there's anything incriminating by saying that and being a human being.
yeah,
I don't think there's anything incriminating or criminal about saying, or a an admission of guilt to say
yeah,
something like, "Hey, you all, I feel for you. This breaks my heart. I am
yep,
dying inside, knowing that
yep,
I am an elected official here, and this happened under my watch, and I'm going to
yes,
do everything in my power to
yep,
figure out what went wrong, not
yep,
who's to blame, what processes failed, how we can fix that. We don't want this happening again.
yeah,
I'm sorry. That's
yeah.
it. That I think Nate, that's what everybody wants to hear.
So why do you think then, if that's what everybody wants to hear, that we don't hear that?
Um, because I don't think the politicians are very human.
Mm,
I think they've lost humanity by being in their political bubble. They don't have to. I think they've become desensitized to pain and things like that of their constituents and people in general, right? And they're just sort of these talking heads that go out in a suit and talk to stuff and then go back and enjoy their political lives.
the thing is, like the whole definition of a politician is knowing how to say what people want you to say. Like that should be their bread and butter. Is the ability to say those things
To,
that
to read
get
the
them,
room, right?
yeah, to
Let's
read the
read the
room or get
room,
them the votes in the future or whatever. And so
right?
now I'm wondering if what you're saying is that they literally don't have the ability to pull that off.
I
Maybe
don't
they've
think
been
they have
in,
the no. I don't
yeah.
think they have the ability to empathize with their constituents anymore. Or
Even
else
if
why
they're
would
told
you
by counselors or advisors, you really
fake
need
it?
to empathize. Yeah,
No, you're right.
exactly.
Fake it, dude. Make it look
Yeah,
like you care. No,
yeah,
because I think that's come off. People read people like that pretty well, and they come off as posers or fake. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
and I mean, and
I
this whole
agree.
thing goes. I think this whole thing goes to like, to me, there's this breakdown, right, of action versus non-action and post response, right? To me, I'm really high on like preventative, right, and action.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the politicians are high and big on um, being reactionary
Yeah.
and not so action, but more faith based. Which is,
Yes.
well, which is this is why I
Yeah.
think this is why thoughts and prayers
Yeah.
is what everybody sends out.
Yeah.
And I mean, and I mean, and you're faithful, Nate, and a very church going individual, Christian church going individual every Sunday type person. And so, I mean, for you, when you hear people say thoughts and prayers
Yep.
after every single tragedy and every single
Yep.
thing, how does that
Yep.
make you feel?
I
Like,
think
do you
it's
go, oh,
offensive.
dude? I mean,
It's offensive. I first off, I know that if I was somebody that lost a loved one to a shooting or to a natural disaster or to something else, and somebody in a government position or somebody who I didn't know said thoughts and prayers, or even, and I know they try to dress it up, because I think they know now that thoughts and prayers is sort of a negative buzzword, and so they gussy it up a little bit and try to
right?
say it in a different way because they know we're almost looking for that.
Yeah,
But it's still the same thing. I take offense to it. I think that it is, if there's a person who's bleeding on the side of the road, and I have the option to either sit down and kneel with them and pray with them, or to start uh, dressing them to stop the flow of blood from exiting their body, only one of those responses is appropriate. So let's stop the bleeding. Let's address the situation. And dude, yeah, man, thoughts and freaking prayers all over the place. Absolutely. But I'll be praying. Sure, I guess you could have a prayer while you're stopping the blood, whatever, that's fine. But I'm not announcing anything publicly about how hard I'm praying. I'm going to be talking about what is it that I'm doing to stop this thing. If
right,
there's a time to talk about faith, it's not when I'm the one who's responsible for being in action right now. You can say pray for me as I act, I guess, if you want.
right.
I
I
don't
think
know.
I think there's a. I mean, I think this is told in like this is probably told from the pulpit in many congregations and many places everywhere. I know on my mission, I use this constantly,
Yeah.
and it was to talk about like it was a little like a short little like anecdotal like story about somebody's in a flood, sort of like this is
Oh yeah.
really relatable. They're in a
Right.
flood, right? They're on their roof, and they're praying and praying and praying for, please God, help me off of this roof. I'm gonna drown. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
make it. And a dude comes by in a boat and says, "Hey man, jump in, dude. We have one more space. We'll take you out of here." No man, I'm good. I'm good. I'm praying. I'm praying. I'm waiting for my help. God's gonna send help. And then somebody comes by in a helicopter. Hey man, you're almost drowning. It's getting really tight to the top of the roof. And we got a ladder. We'll just climb up it. We'll carry you to safety. No, dude, I've been praying. I trust in God. God's gonna deliver me. I've got faith, and I've been praying, and it's gonna work out. And the helicopter leaves, and the water comes up and over his ankles, and the deluge frickin' swishes him away and drowns him. And yeah, and he
But
goes, when he dies, he goes to God and says, "Hey,
um,
when he and he goes, hey, I had faith in you. I I was on that roof and I was praying, and I believed with every ounce of my being that you were going to save me, that you were going to send some help for me and save me." And God's like, "Dude," he goes, "what do you think the boat was? What do you think the helicopter was? Like, I did answer your prayers." So
but
I think
the analogy is broken down, Aaron. The analogy, it's even worse than that, because the analogy is you have a victim who is up on a roof praying, and then you have decision makers who are saying, what are we going to do to help him? And somebody says, well, we should send a boat. And that person says, I don't know that we should send a boat. They'll probably be okay if we just do this thing over here. Well, what if we do
oh
this? You know what I mean? So it's not,
yeah, no, you've got like people on the ground down here like stopping anything that would any answer to their
yeah,
prayer that
like
could reach
preventing
them.
it. Like the
Yeah,
victim would be more than happy to see the boat, except that the person with the decision maker sees, hey, we could send a boat. And then they say something like, that's a very expensive
yeah.
option.
Let's save
Maybe what
that
we ought to
money.
do. Yeah.
Let's save
Hey
that money
guys,
for
but
something else.
everybody start praying.
Yes,
You know what I
that'll fix
mean?
it. No, yeah,
That's
or
the,
right. No, that's 100%. Yeah,
yeah,
dude. Or
it's
it's like
frustrating.
it's like, it's like, hey, the whole town's been praying for years, hey, help us because we're stressed out about this flood and stuff.
Yeah.
Pray that the waters are going to be contained and stuff, and then local politician gets some money. Hey, we just got some freaking millions of dollars, like to set up some I don't know, some sirens and some stuff to make so you guys all know to get the heck out of there when floods come.
Right.
Holy cow! Um,
Right.
wait, we're going to spend that on something else, you know?
Or
Oh,
or in
or
Utah,
use it as a flippant answer to their prayers. These
sure.
people have been praying forever,
In
you know?
Utah, we go through these droughts, right? I mean, everybody does. Everybody goes through droughts, but we go through these droughts, and we're like, well, we're gonna fast and pray for the rain, and at the same time, we're gonna put our money over here, and we're gonna grow these crops that are,
Sucking up all the water.
extracurricular.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
you know,
I know. Or we're gonna water our lawns, man. This is
right? We're gonna
great,
water our lawns and water our golf
Yeah,
courses or
we're
whatever.
gonna
And we're
spray
like, but
water
pray for rain.
everywhere.
It's like,
Yee.
well, I mean, he sent the valves. He sent the things that we could have used to save some water or whatever,
Yeah,
or prevent the fires that whatever. It's on
yeah.
us. It's on
I know.
us.
I know. Anyway, so I mean, point being, I think the end of the wrap up here is that, like, I mean, we just want people to, like, we want politicians to be human. We want them to do their jobs. We want them to, like, look at problems and solve problems. And I get that they're not seers; they're not people who can see in the future. However, we do have science. We do have people telling us that, hey, there's a Cat 4 storm coming. Please start preparing. We've got a lot of those things, and I just think that we need to, like, be more preventative. We need to help people out. We need to, when stuff does go wrong that we couldn't prevent, we need to, like, put plans in action to fix them and help people and make sure that their suffering doesn't happen again, and it's not for nothing.
Like I know there's at least one person besides myself that might listen to this and be a person of faith and wonder, well, then what place does God have in all this? Well, the thing is, none of this precludes faith. Like none of this means that faith doesn't have to be involved or can't be involved. But I think what we're talking about is disingenuous, faith, disingenuous prayers, disingenuous,
Well, yeah, I think they're utilizing people's suffering and cloaking it under
the
this
guise
like
of
this like guise of
yeah,
I'm so I want everybody to pray for
I'm
you,
like you, I'm one of
and
you.
that's great. Like, I
Yeah,
mean, I've heard this saying too, and I used to say this all the time also, was that faith can move mountains, but don't be surprised if the Lord hands you a shovel.
yeah,
Dude, you
yeah.
know? Like, sometimes it just boils down to that.
Stop
Like,
waiting and start
yeah,
working.
I mean, do good stuff,
Right,
of your own good free will.
right.
Anyway,
Yeah, I'm with you,
yeah,
dude.
so I think, I mean, if you guys disagree with us, agree with us, you think politicians are doing fine by saying thoughts and prayers, and you think those are appropriate responses. If you think ducking the working on the problem during times of suffering is fair, and you think they should do that, leave us some comments in the bottom. Let's talk about this a little bit. I think our next episode, if you guys are interested, is going to be about leaving the job force in your 50s and hopefully rejoining it. So I'm throwing that out there for us to prepare. It's going to be a little bit of a sensitive talk because Nate and I are both in situations where we might be in that scenario. So we're going to be
We're
looking for
50
advice. Yeah, we're going to be looking
ish.
for advice
Yeah.
and hopefully giving you guys some, like, inspiration too. So yeah,
Great week, guys.
great week. It'll be a great week. Okay, signing off. I'm Aaron,
I'm Nathan.
and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.